You know, after playing years and years of games, open world games with maps that are pretty much almost empty or where there's nothing much interesting to do, I've realized that I actually prefer a different approach to open world, because I mean open world games are pretty much the most popular setting in this sense. Like nowadays, if a game isn't open world, it feels like in the collective mind it's not a real game. This is the at least this is the impression I get. But I actually prefer the approach where the map is smaller but more detailed. I don't know if that has a name, but think games like The Witcher. Actually, the perfect example is The Witcher 2 against The Witcher 3. I actually prefer The Witcher 2 approach because I think it makes it more replayable, more interesting to explore, and it gives the developers the possibility to actually focus their like creativity, because it allows them to create different assets that don't have to coexist. Because with open world games you have to be able to visit all location at all times. Meanwhile, with an approach like I don't know, the one in Witcher 2, or even think for example Phantom Pain versus Metal Gear Solid 3, or even just Ground Zeroes, which took place in more confined areas. Think the differences between those two games. It's not mandatory for the dev to have the whole map available at all times. So it definitely takes less strain on their creativity, and also in terms of level design, because when you design the locations for a game, of course you have to design the various the way the various maps are crafted and organized. So of course if you don't have like interesting environments with interesting gameplay possibilities, the game will feel dull. I mean, it will feel pretty dull, because a lot of open world games do feel dull when you explore, or even when you arrive at destination. It just sometimes feels dull because the developers didn't have the talent, the chance, the time to craft interesting maps that allow the player to really get into the meat of the gameplay. Because I mean, as we all know, it's definitely easier to design compelling maps when you just have to worry about smaller areas. So it's not rocket science. And so I found that in most cases, honestly, the open world experience is detrimental more than anything, because it also wastes your time if you have to travel throughout an open world map where there's barely anything to do. But I guess that also depends on whether the developer makes the travel fun or not. For example, in Dragon's Dogma, the walking the distances is not very fun, because you find yourself fighting the same enemies time and time again. But there are a few games that manage to pull them off. For example, Spider-Man games. Spider-Man games do have, I mean, maybe not a super interesting open world, but they do make the travel through the world fun, thanks to the web swinging mechanics. For example, Spider-Man 2 on Xbox, GameCube, and PS2 was a pretty fun game. Even just swinging was one of the most fun things you could do. And that's a big part also. It's a mix of things. The way you travel through the open world, the gameplay possibilities, the gameplay density, and also the beauty of the environment. Because if the environment looks like shit, it's not gonna be compelling to traverse it. So to conclude, in my opinion, I think the best approach for me is let's say the Dark Souls 1, Ninja Gaiden 1, Ninja Gaiden Black approach, where there's an interconnected world with different, more detailed areas. That I think for an adventure game at least is probably the best approach. In some cases, the open world can work, but if I had to choose, I will prefer, like I said, a game with areas that are relatively big, not super big, not open world big, relatively big, like The Witcher 2 or Deus Ex. Explorable, pretty detailed, and where there's a good gameplay density, so you have stuff to do, people to talk to, and you don't go huge amounts of times without doing anything other than walking. That's probably the best compromise, the best balance, because it respects your time more as well. So, I mean, as usual, let me know what you think. What do you agree with me, or you prefer your average open world modern game? And if so, I mean, explain why, or give examples of games that actually do the open world the correct way in your opinion. But yeah, this is it for this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.